Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this week's AI special workshop from Annika Digital. It's myself and Stanley, and I've got Darren Wynn with me this morning. Good morning, Darren.
Good morning.
We are running a little bit later than we expected. We've had a couple of technical issues, first of all. Nothing to do with what we normally do. It was because we were being very ambitious and trying to stream to LinkedIn Live. But now you've joined us. We're very happy that you're here. And we're going to get on straight away. So if you want to maximize your screen to see the slides, that would be amazing. Darren's going to answer the chat while I am doing the first bit of presentation, and then we swap over. So I'm going to do the same. I'm going to maximize my screen. Okay, so a little bit about us. So Darren, as you can see, is on the left. I'm on the right. And Sean is who's head of commercial. This is when we were at marketing showcase over in Birmingham about a couple of months ago. But it's quite a nice picture. And as you've already, many of you already know, I'm the founder and CTO, and Darren is managing director. And we've been on this amazing journey over the last, well, I guess most intensely over the last 6 months, but we've been looking at AI for well over 3 years, well before ChatGPT was launched in November 22. So a little bit about us then. So Annika's got a family of brands and services. So first of all, we've got Annika Digital, which is now 18 years old. And this is really important when we're doing AI, because most of the AI that we're doing is for marketing and operations. I think you would probably call it traditional white collar work. You know, if it involves a laptop and a computer, we definitely can get involved. But the core business still offers strategy, search, social shopping, and skills. So we've got around 30 clients, and that business is growing again at the moment, and we obviously can help people with that as well. We've also got Annika Academy, and we've trained around 1,000 learners since January 22, and that's with the digital marketing level 5 qualification. Now I'm pleased to announce that we have got some places in Norfolk and Suffolk and Leicester. So if any of you are interested in training, do let us know. Maybe we can stick Angie's or Lucy's email in the chat. Darren, that would be very useful, because it's free training for learners, and if your employer supporting you, then they pay a nominal sum. Then we launched Annika AI back in April, and our core services on that, which I'll show you in the next slide, is strategy, solutions, and skills. And our newest edition, which is launching and is basically in the process of, it's just about to be launched. So the baby is coming, and that's offering data insights and app development. We've already got Armadillo Analytics, but we are in the process of building the AI agency marketplace, which I think you'll be really excited about as well. So that's the family of brands, and I just want to tell you a little bit about what the Annika AI and automation services does. So, and you're going to learn a lot about the first two today. We're actually going to do it in a completely different order. We're going to talk about the sorts of solutions you can do with AI, because this is where you can help yourself, but also where you need to learn the most. Towards the end, we're going to teach you how we do our strategy and our audits. And then I'm also going to tell you about the 10-day workshop and course that we run, which is actually starts in September. So most of today, we're going to be talking about the middle section, which is the solutions, how we can use AI and automation within your workplace. So what you need to do is understand the fundamentals of generative AI. And many of you have already seen us talk before, but we want to make sure we bring everybody into this basic level of understanding, because if you don't understand the basics, you're not going to understand the more complicated parts. But I would say this is probably the most complicated slide in the deck. So you're going to need to let us know that you all understand it. But first of all, I hope some of you have heard the term large language models. So OpenAI, Gemini from Google, DeepSeek from China, Llama from Facebook, pretty much every single big tech company has got its own large language model. And that's basically the brain that runs everything that we do in ChatGPT or anything we do with any AI automation. And the most important thing you need to understand is how it takes a huge amount of text and converts that into something that a algorithm or mathematical formula can work on. So what happens is that, and it works in a very similar way to Google, actually. It's called Neuro-Linguistic Program. And I'm going to give you an example of how it works. And I want you to write in the chat while I explain it. If I say the word apple, what do you all think about? So if you could use the chat and just explain what it is that you think about when you hear the word apple. Now, basically, as we type in a prompt, which is the instructions into ChatGPT, or if it scrapes the internet or a document and includes it in its training database, the large language model, what it does is it converts that text into tokens or small elements of the text. And it's not necessarily the whole word. It can, in some cases, be part of a word. So, and then it gives a numerical value. And the numerical value in the example I've just given is really interesting, because apple is a word that has sort of two meanings for most people. So I'm sure that many of you were thinking of the fruit. And if you think of apple as a fruit, you're going to be thinking of apple pie and apple pie recipes and apple trees. You might be thinking of oranges and pears. And you'll generally be thinking of anything to do with the word fruit. And all of those will have a numerical value, and they'll be quite closely associated with each other. Now, I'm sure many of you also thought of Steve Jobs and Apple Company, iPods, iPhones, etc., and basically computers and Macs and things. And so those words will also be very, very closely associated with each other, and their numerical value within this this vector database is going to be quite close as well. But as you can imagine, the iPhone and Apple recipe are not closely related at all. They're completely different. So when somebody puts in a prompt saying, who was the founder of Apple, it immediately knows that you're not talking about who is the founder of fruit. You're talking about the company. And it can look into its training data, and it will bring back a chunk of information that relates to that particular question. So it has to convert the text prompt, the input, first of all, and then it then grabs information from its training database, and then it generates an answer and then outputs that as text. Now, this involves encoding and decoding things, which I'm not going to go into. But the point I'm trying to make is that next time you ask the same question, the answer won't necessarily be the same. And if you change the prompt slightly, you'll get a completely different answer as well. And then if you went into Gemini, or you went into Claude, which is by Anthropic, or you went into Llama, which is Facebook, or you went into DeepSeek, each of them is going to give you a slightly different answer, because the answer is generated, the text is generated. So it's not copying it from anywhere, it's generating it. So that's how the text works. And I think it's important to see that over the last 2.5 years, ChatGPT has actually evolved quite a lot. So originally you could just ask a question, and then very quickly you were able to upload your own document. So not only was it taking the information from its training database, which I think was already 2 years out of date, it was then using the data that you provided. So you could provide it a PDF or a document or a handbook or something and asked it questions about that. And so not only was it using that data, it was using your data as well. And then what happened is the next evolution was that they then, and Claude only did this a month ago, is it then gave you access to the internet. So not only was it able to bring information that was in its training data, it was also able to bring the information back from the internet, and it would be sort of live, yesterday's data would be in there if we did a prompt now. Now, the other thing you need to understand is this training data and the answers that it gets involves the word training. Now, originally, this was humans that were asking questions and seeing what the quality of the data was like. and actually they would then grade it. And if you remember when we first started using ChatGPT, it would ask you whether it was a good or a bad question, and you'd give it a reply and say, no, this was rubbish. You've hallucinated and made something up. This is complete rubbish. And actually what we were doing as users were training it. Now what happens is it actually uses AI to help train it as well. And often we'll go to the other AI chat bots and ask them similar questions. And so so some of the new ones like DeepSeek, they were famous because they were developed really, really quickly and are probably off the back of all the other ones. And that's actually a really important tip. So I think somebody needs to keep a tally of what we're doing to do. Tip 1 is actually, if you want to prompt a search engine, you might actually, sorry, I'm saying search engine now. If you want to prompt an AI, what you can do is you can also go to another AI and check out what you're asking. Now, we're not going to be doing a prompting workshop today. We'll probably do that one next, actually. That might be a very good one to put on the onto the list. But I wanted to give you an analogy of prompting, and it's all, and I use my grandkids, who you can see the pictures behind me. And when I first taught them to cook, I had to give them lots of really detailed instructions. Now, if I just said to ChatGPT or my grandkids, go and bake a cake, or tell me how to bake a cake, it would struggle with that because you're not really given any detail. And so one of the things that we need to do when we're using these text large language models and ChatGPT is we need to learn how to prompt properly. So obviously later on, when I started teaching the kids, I'd get the BBC recipes out and we'd have photographs of what we've done before, and we'd do a sort of a step-by-step instructions. So obviously if you can improve the question that you answer, sort of rubbish in, rubbish out, the better the prompt, the better the answer. So I think that's a really good summary of the way that text prompting works. Is there any questions, Darren, about that? If you guys want to ask questions as we go along, then either we can discuss them or Darren.
Nothing so far, but I think a session on prompting is probably a really good idea. We did one. Was it this week?
Yeah, we did one for our own team this week, because even though our team are pretty advanced at using AI, we've got people of very, very different levels. And there's actually a blog that I wrote a couple of months ago as a result of the training that I do every weekend, where we actually spent 4 days, 4 sessions. So I guess 2 full days on learning prompting techniques. So I wrote that up in a blog. So it might be useful to share that as well, Darren, if that's okay. So that's how we handle text. Now, what I'm going to do is tell you how we handle image. Now, again, if we handle images, we can still use a text prompt. And actually, quite often now they've evolved to the point where you can add an image to say you want something similar to this. But you're not necessarily going into the same places. So this would be something like Midjourney, DALL-E when it was part of ChatGPT quite early on. And we use something called a diffusion model. And what you will notice now is many of the original large language models are now what we call multimodal, and they do image as well. So if you went into ChatGPT and asked for a cat riding a motorcycle in Leicester, it would start off with a very blurred image, and then gradually what would happen is it would remove the layers of noise and it would output you with an image, and that's a generated image. So I think that's a really good one to demo to start with. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into a new chat, and I'm going to go for the tools. I'm going to create an image, and I'm going to describe my image here. And if you've not, we are assuming that the majority of you will have used ChatGPT at some point, but this is the paid version of ChatGPT. And I've just gone to a new chat. We've got all the GPTs, which we'll come back to later. And there's different models, but we're just going to use the standard one. And we are in a paid model at the moment. So we pay £20 a month for this. But actually, if you went into the free one, it would look something very, very similar. So I will open another browser in just a second.
And we're still seeing the slides. I don't know if you're presenting live. I
am presenting live. So very good point. This is the only disadvantage, is that in your head, you're still sharing your screen. This is why we have to do this with two of us, because so if I go to ChatGPT, actually I'll just do it in my normal browser, but you can go over to a free one as well. We won't do that now, but we're in a paid version, and there's different models here. I'm going to do just 4.0, and I can just create a new chat. These are some of the GPTs which we're going to talk about later on. And I've got this, so you can just create an image, search for do some deep research, or you can just put a query in here. Please create a realistic image of a cat driving a big motorbike in a city. Okay, so I'm hoping it's going to give me something like that. This is what I mean by like a diffusion. It starts off with a blurred image, and it's going to start removing the layers away. It takes a little while to do. Yeah, there's the blurred image, and it's currently what we're calling denoising it. Absolutely no idea what this is going to look like. And if we went to something like Midjourney, it would do something very similar as well. But you would give it a much more detailed prompt. Just put in something very simple like this is exactly what we would teach you not to do in the prompting course. It takes a little while, but it's worth waiting, because I want you to actually see this sort of process. And what normally happens, it starts to reveal the layers from the top. And we can do all sorts of things here. Also, while I'm showing you this, while I'm waiting for that to happen, you could also, you can talk to it, and you can also add images here. And you can also, can you see how it's starting to clear from the top? Also, you can search the web as well from this view. Okay, let's see what it starts. So you can start to see the images of the city. There is a reason I've chosen this, by the way, but I'll show you that later. Oh, you can start to see the ears of the cat, a typical tabby cat. Okay, so you can see it's on the motorcycle. It's got a city behind it. It's sort of a little bit out of proportion, but not bad. Obviously, it's going to have a bit of trouble with the pedals because it's a little bit short. So please change the cat to Maine Coon. But what I can do is please change the head of the cat, Ginger Mange Coon, and make it a hybrid with human body. Okay, so we can do something like that. It's going to take a little while to process, but we'll come on to that. Now, while we're doing that, I'd like you to write a number in the chat. And what I want you to do is I want you to tell us on a scale of 1 to 100 where you think you are in your, how advanced you are with your use of AI within your day-to-day life and day-to-day job. So are you right at the beginning? And if you're using just a normal ChatGPT, I would say you are on about 20%. If you were paying for GPTs or using Claude, I'd put you on about 30%. if you've started experimenting or using custom GPTs, I put you on about 40%. If you're building them, I'd put you on about 50, maybe 60%. And then if you've started to play around with any other tools, sorry, let me change that. So if you're using tools like Midjourney or copy.ai or any of those, I'd put you on about 50%. If you're building custom GPTs, about 60%. And then if you're doing any automations or you're playing around with any automations, you've looked at things like Make or NAN, I'd put you between 80 and 90%. And if you're doing this for a living, I'd put you somewhere between 90 and 100%. So a bit of an evolution up the scale. So if you'd like to put where you think you are, if you think you really are just complete beginner, don't worry, you can put yourself at sort of 1 to 5%, that's fine. But if you are starting to use other software and you're starting to use custom GPTs that other people have built and going in, that's around 50. So you've got to sort of judge where you are in that scale. Okay, so it's not really changed the background, which is one of the problems with a lot of the AI. What happens is that you ask it to do something different and it changed everything else that you liked before. Actually that building looks pretty similar. I can see it's a Maine Coon cat because I recognize the ears. Maine Coons have big spiky ears and like a beard. There's one sitting in the room next door to me. So that's definitely a Maine Coon head, but it looks very close to the handlebars. So I have a sneaking suspicion that it's not going to be a hybrid cat head person. But let's see what it comes up with. Oh, it has made the image a bit longer this time, so we might be in luck. That's a very handsome cat, actually. So, Darren, what are the scores coming out like in the chat?
Varied, I would say, but most people under 50%, although we've had a few more coming in at much higher. So we've got a couple of 90%, some 80% in here, but it's reflective of what we said at the beginning, really, that most people, the feedback is all over the place. Some people relatively low, some people quite advanced with it.
So that's a pretty good image. It's a little bit distorted. The head's a bit big relative to the body, but the image of the bike's okay. You've got reasonable hands, because hands are always a problem with AI. The actual cat face is quite nice, and we've got distorted in the background. But that is an example of image manipulation. So I'm going to go back over to the slides now. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and go back to the slides. What did you think of the image? It's amazing. It's so much better than the old image where we had ChatGPT produce these cartoony type images in DALL-E. Okay, so there's a bit missing here. So we've looked at the text prompt in the large language models. We've looked at the image manipulation, and you can sort of obviously use that for video creation as well. The other thing I would say is that the multimodal, like ChatGPT and Claude particularly, is powerful for this. The reason we like Claude a lot is it can create a lot, it can do a lot of code, it can analyze data, it can produce graphs, PowerPoint presentations, visual flow diagrams. So Claude has got a lot of extra functionality that we really, really like in this multimodal. But there's a bit missing, and the bit that's missing is what we call the knowledge. This is the data that you train it, and this is very important when we start going over to custom GPTs. So this is where you actually upload your own PDF. So if you're writing a tender, you have to load all the tender documents. Or if you're trying to create something to review your handbook, you obviously need your handbook. But it's more than that. If you're going to be creating social posts, you need to have examples of the sorts of stuff that works. Or if you're creating an image, you want to show examples of the style. So the knowledge is really important, and we'll come back to that shortly. Okay, so we did the AI adoption attitude score. So Darren said that we've got a huge range between AI adverse right at the bottom to AI opportunistic, use AI for certain things, and then right up to AI ambassadors. And this is really important because it's not only your current skill level, it's really your attitude to risk and using AI. So as an agency, when we go and talk about digital marketing, we need to understand whether the client that we're working with or the prospect, whether they're going to encourage us to use AI in our day job or whether they want us to do everything in the traditional way. So, for example, if it was a copywriting or an SEO project, we've got this idea that we can use AI as an assistant. And then you get this concept of an AI sandwich, which I did steal from somebody else. So I definitely, this is not my idea, but I do use this when I'm trying to explain to people. And the concept of an AI sandwich is the fact that you start with a human that's got the idea and has learnt to prompt very well, and so can ask the AI for the best possible output or generate the best possible response. So if you haven't got the skill set, so if you're an intern or you're a trainee, you haven't got the years and years of experience to actually know what to ask and learn how to prompt properly. And then the AI generates the answer because you've encouraged it and got it to do the right thing. And then from there, what happens is that you get the answer from the AI and you can tell if it's good or not because you've already got experience. You can tell if it's hallucinating and making it up. And then you can take that output and you probably will need to edit it. So when we're talking to clients in a digital marketing project, we want to know whether they will proactively encourage us to use AI and therefore get more work done for the time that we have on the project, or whether they're really not very comfortable with it and they would prefer us to do a more manual job rather than fully automating it. So we talked about your level of experience and where you fit on that sort of experience scale, but we also have to talk about your you and your businesses willingness to adopt it, because you might be all over this, but actually the company that you work for might be really anti it, really worried about it, really insecure. Or it could be the other way around. You could be in a company like Annika where we're absolutely all over this, but when we started talking about this 2.5 years ago, or 3 years ago, people are a little bit nervous, and often when they try it, they don't get very good results because they don't know how to prompt yet. So you have to, you and your company have to go on 2 journeys. You have to go on a journey about having the mindset to use AI, but also you have to have a journey about the technology and understanding how to get the best out of it, which is what we're going to cover next. So I sort of described this when I was saying give yourself a score. But I want to just ground this that actually knowing nothing about AI and automation is 0, but there is a whole type of automation which we particularly do around our training academy, and when we get loads of Facebook applications we have to process those, but also the forms on the Annika website which are completely automated, but they don't involve AI at all. So I'm going to illustrate this to you in a minute. We'll do a little demo of that. Then you've got your generative AI, which we've just shown you. And then you've got the sorts of apps and SaaS tools where you pay on a monthly basis. And in a way, ChatGPT is trying to encourage you to go there, so you don't have to go to Midjourney, unless you're a designer and you're using Midjourney all the time, or you're using Canva, or you're using Adobe Figma or something. You can probably get a lot of the images you want with just ChatGPT. So it's trying to be an everything app that doesn't mean, so you basically stay there all the time and you don't need to go anywhere else. But we'll show you some examples of some apps and SaaS, and that's the sort of stuff that we will be building as part of the Annika Insights. So as I said, we've already got a tool for analytics and e-commerce dashboards, which we're going to have AI in it. But we're going to be building an AI marketplace, which will allow people to access the agents that we've built really easily. The next stage is the Custom GPT, and we're going to spend about 30 minutes today doing the demo. By the way, we've no idea whether this workshop's going to take 2 hours or a bit longer. So hopefully you can clear your diary for 11 o'clock, just in case we have lots of questions and this takes us a little bit longer. But we thought we'd advertise it as a 2-hour demo and see how we get on. And then we've got AI agents, which is, again, a big part of the theme of today. And AI agents is a term that's been bandied around. There was only there was a majority of you not heard of AI agents before. But they really come into two types. There's the AI agents that are completely autonomous, that happen in the background that you don't even know. And so, for an example, Darren's got an agent that goes to his email every 5 minutes or 15 minutes, goes and see what's happening, and then sends in the team message, say you need to do something. And then he just then does something and then tells it to go. And it might even answer, create an email draft for him. And then he can then decide, push a button, whether he wants it to happen, or it might be completely autonomous, and Darren doesn't need to get involved at all. And then you've got triggered ones. So these could be triggered by a form, they could be triggered by a message. You could message in Slack or in Teams, and then that starts it. Or something could happen, such as a form arriving on your website, and then a whole automation, somebody completes a form or does something on your website, and then a whole load of automation happens as a result of that trigger. So we'll talk more about that in a minute. So I get the impression that most of you are at the bottom of this. So I think what we're gonna do is, the way the presentation is laid out today is we're going to go through each of these stages. So we're going to start with the basic automation to start with. So automation without AI then, we've been doing this for over 3 years now, well before we started using ChatGPT. And the reason, and please do scan this with your phone if you're on your desktop, please scan this, fill in the form. I will put this up again because there's some things on here that you think, oh, I really wish I filled that in later. But the reason I want you to fill this form in is because several things will happen. And I'm now going to, hopefully you've all had a chance to scan the barcode. If not, if Darren can just quickly type the link in the chat as well. What we're going to do now is I'm going to show you what's actually happening behind the scenes. So as you fill in the form and hit submit, there's effectively a trigger that's happening in our CRM marketing automation system, which we use, called Go High Level. Now, we have done a session on Go High Level before, but unfortunately, in the process of doing the demo, I accidentally showed some email addresses. So we have got a guide to Go High Level. So if you go and look through the webinars and click on there, there's actually a guide to Go High Level, which you might find quite useful. Anyway, what's happening in the background? You fill in this form. So this is a specific form that I've created just for today. And then if you've now, most of you will already be on our database because that's how you heard about it. But if you've not been added to our database, a contact will be created. Then what will happen is a tag will be created that you are watching this particular talk. So this is the so it'll be tagged like AI workshop June the 27th, and that tag will be added to your contact record. Then we will send you an email, and we will also get an email as well. Our email is triggered from the actual form itself, so not from this workflow, but you should receive an email. And then the other thing that's really interesting, where an API connection happens, because there's a connection with WhatsApp, which is obviously owned by Meta. Now I can hear my phone going off now. That means I know that some of you are doing this, because obviously I will be able to see the WhatsApp messages that you send. So as you fill in the form, you will get hit submit. You will get a WhatsApp message. There's a couple of seconds delay, maybe 30 seconds delay. And it will say, thank you for filling in the form. The next steps are, would you like some freebies, book a sales call, or you've got a question? Now, I'm not going to be answering the questions now, because obviously I'm on this demo. But that is what you could be doing on your website. And that's a sort of a very low level of automation. But there's no brain, there's no AI involved in that. Now you can introduce AI in it and sort of say, oh, this is spam, I'm not going to process it. And I have played around with that, but this is just the basic stuff. Okay, so the next thing is just generative AI, which I've already shown you, but I want to use this one as an example throughout the day. So this is transcription, converting your notes. So you might be recording this call. You might be recording meetings. Maybe you're in Hangouts or Teams and you want really good notes. So most people that use something like Otter or Tactic or Read, there's loads of others, or are deliberately doing their calls in Hangouts or Teams, will get their transcription, or they get the audio file. And if you get the audio file, there's another step. We use a free service called Assembly, which I think Darren can paste it in the chat. But if you've got the actual transcription, that's really easy. So you go into ChatGPT, and this was a meeting with Charles Bentley, who's our guinea pig client. They've been clients for over 14 years. We do loads of digital marketing with them, but we also do quite a lot of projects, and their name will come up later. But please provide detailed notes for our meeting with Charles Bentley discussing voice agents. Make sure you include all the technical details. Now, I'm not going to show you the notes because there was a lot of confidential information in there, but you can imagine that you can just go to ChatGPT, load up a file like this by using the plus button and asking it to produce some detailed notes. Now, I was quite specific. Most people would just say, oh, please, can you give me some meeting notes? And then you'll get the minimum of what ChatGPT meeting notes need to be. And it's just not enough detail for us because of the type of meetings that we have. So that's why we go on this journey of building our own custom GPT and our own automation, which is what we're going to show you. So this is effectively our case study for today. Okay, so the next one up the maturity ladder is AI apps and tools. And most of these require a monthly subscription. And we already spend a fortune at Annika on all the SEO and PPC tools and things that we use. But this has put our tool bill even more expensive, because if you start adding up these $25, $50 a month, you can see that they get quite expensive quite quickly. So the first one is Klingon. The reason I said Klingon is because one of my actually it was my husband said, oh, talking to AI is like talking to what you're talking about, Anne, is like Klingon to me. I don't understand. So if you're a space Trek fan, you know what I mean. But Kling AI is the name of the tool, and I really like this one because this is what you call a try-on app. And there's quite a lot of these available. So what you do is you go to this, in this case, it was Marks and Spencer's dress. You load up an image of yourself, and this was taken from last year. And then you load up a picture of a product from a website, and then the AI just basically merges it. Now, what I liked about this was, and I did a LinkedIn post, which was quite popular, was when I sent this LinkedIn post and put this image, I said, who needs Mounjaro, which is the slimming jab, when you can lose 5 stone with AI. But the bizarre thing is, if you notice from the previous picture, I have actually been on Mounjaro for the last sort of 5 or 6 months, and I've actually lost 3 stone. So I haven't quite lost as much as the AI does, but I smile every time I pick this up, see this picture, particularly as it's Anne as she was rather than Anne as she is now. But you can imagine this for Charles Bentley, which is a home and garden site. You could have a picture of your living room, and then you can choose or picture of your garden, and you can put the garden furniture in situ. This is AI Annie using HeyGen, and I'm going to just quickly come out the slides and show you what that looks like, because unfortunately it doesn't allow me to play the slides from here. And I'm going to go over to the video. And I am going to choose, oops, I don't think I've loaded it. Oh no, I have done it. There it is. Play it.
Hi everybody, my name's Stanley. I'm the founder and CTO of Annika Digital. We're a Leicester-based digital marketing agency that actually celebrated our 18th birthday just
Look out for the eyes, guys.
And during that time, we've done some amazing work, got an amazing team, and we specialise in search, social, strategy, shopping and skills. We've even got a training division where we've trained nearly 1,000 people in the last 3 years in a level 5 in digital marketing. But I'm not going to be talking about that today. For the last 3 years, I've had this massive interest in AI.
So my eyes went up to the left. So that is me talking because I got a video audio track, but then I used Hey Jen and it's lip synced. It really is convincing. You know, you wouldn't know that that wasn't me because the voice is so realistic. Now you can go over and use 11 Labs to try and mimic the voice, but I don't like the voice as much as I still prefer my own voice. But I have got examples. If you go on to the AI 10-day course, that one is completely created by AI, and I actually typed it in. And I don't know if any of you saw the AI baby LinkedIn, which was really popular, where there was an image. Yes, you do actually, Darren. You do have to certify it's you and show your passport and all sorts of things. Yeah, so there was an AI baby, a picture of an AI baby with an Annika t-shirt and wild hair, you know, even wilder than mine, and big black glasses. So have a look out for LinkedIn for that. Okay, so I'm going to go back to full screen again and go to the next one. So one of the AI tools that I wanted to show you, which can also be used for building agents, and we played around with this quite a lot, is the Chrome extension of MindStudio AI. Now, this is really good for content creation, but it's also got this Chrome extension. And the Chrome extension, which you go over to, obviously, to the Chrome store and go and download it. And then what you have to do is you have to go over to MindStudio and log in, and it's free to log in and use the Chrome Studio. So that's definitely worthwhile. And then what happens is once you've got it, this is where you go and log in at mindstudio.ai. They actually used to have a big banner when you went here to say load the Chrome plugin, but you can use this to build agents. And James Allen, who's one of the AI team, has been building a lot of AI agents as well. So he's been playing around with MindStudio and has got some success. I've had a mixed success. I built a good content creator tool. Okay, now if you go on as I'm going around the web, I get this little toolbar on the right hand side, and you can see the Annika logo because this is one of the agents that we've built, and then you've also got this one here. And if I go over to YouTube, this is actually YouTube. I'm on a YouTube and one of the Annika videos on YouTube. And when I go over to YouTube, can you see I've got all these agents suddenly appear, and that's because they've built about 8 or 9 agents that are specific for YouTube. And it's brilliant because if you want to do a transcription, or you do Too Lazy to Read, which is one of their little, or you want to create a full article to convert into a blog, then what happens is if you click on it, you get all of these additional tools. Now I've scrolled down because you wouldn't necessarily see. I think this one here is one of ours. So unless we gave you access to ours, you wouldn't see all the others. But if I go and click on one of these, what happens is effectively it starts to process, and you know you're in MindStudio because they always use this. And then effectively you then get a state of the SERPs, effective SEO in the era of clicks. Now this was a summary one, but we played around this to create almost a full blog, and it's really, really effective. So that's MindStudio. I'm not going to go into MindStudio automation today. We might do that as a separate session later. If you go over to MindStudio, they've got a really good YouTube channel which explains how you can play around with this and even build your own little versions. So it's over to you, Darren. Now you can also click on the buttons at the bottom. So I'm just going to come out and I'm going to go non-full screen so I can answer the chat.
Cool. So custom GPTs then. we've gone through LLMs, and we've started to introduce some ideas. So LLMs are brilliant, and they're often really good at the ability to answer basic questions that we have. So when we go through prompting, we'll start to talk a little bit more about different types of prompts that you can introduce to the questions that you're asking in order to get the most response out of it, or the most accurate response on for the question that you're asking. I use LLMs, like I said, every day. I use Claude, I use ChatGPT, and there will be times where I just shoot off single questions to it, and I just want a simple answer back, or maybe I want a more advanced prompt, and it will give me more structured information back. It's awesome at those tasks, and it does it pretty well most of the time. The problem comes with using ChatGPT and Claude at this basic level is that it struggles with context. It struggles with consistency of answers. And if there's a question that I've got and I get a really good prompt back, what I will often find myself doing is then going back through my chat history to try and find that previous chat that I had with ChatGPT or Claude, to then try and retain that information and then ask follow-up questions or ask a slightly different question. So for these repetitive tasks or domain-specific work, what is really handy is having a version of ChatGPT or Claude, or other versions are available, which can remember certain instructions or pieces of information, so that when I want to go back and ask a new question about subject, with that information or that prompt already baked into ChatGPT, I can do that through Custom GPT. So Custom GPTs offer us the ability to have a personalized version of ChatGPT that sits in our subscription. It's going to be preloaded with lots of different contexts. So that could be documents, it could be PDF, Word documents, all of these different things, and a set of instructions as well, which you will come up with and maybe over time refine to make it more and more appropriate to what you're trying to do. And that just saves us time. It saves us time in prompting AI every time to give us the answer that we want to see. It saves us the time in building in the additional context to what we're wanting out of that agent through documentation and all the rest of it. And then in addition to that, if we produce a custom GPT and it's really, really useful, and then we want to share it with others, we can share it through links, and shared a link earlier for one of the custom GPTs, so others can use that as well. And when you go on to ChatGPT, we'll show a live version in a second and I'll walk through the steps. You will also see a marketplace where others have created custom GPTs that you can then utilize as well. It's worth having a look through that marketplace, especially if you've got, for example, you want to create some content, or you want it to be quite niche content or quite specific. You can use the search function and find lots of different custom GPTs that people have made. I will say I rarely use the marketplace. I find that it's better just to create your own than use ones that other people have found or created. But that marketplace is there, especially if you want to get some ideas on how to produce one yourself. You can do that. So what's the next slide, Anne? Can I do this? Oh, I can. There we go. So I'll go through a live demo in just a second, but if you have a paid license, now this is the plus license to ChatGPT, £20 a month. And when you start to incorporate all the other tools that you may wish to use as you get more advanced with this, and you've got some off-the-shelf stuff, maybe you want to use not just ChatGPT, but you want to use Claude as well, the costs do start to ramp up. So you do have to consider that. The custom GPTs are only available on this plus subscription, which is the £20 a month. If you have that subscription, then on the left-hand side, you will see GPTs. And then when you click on the GPTs, up on the top right-hand corner, you will have your section for your own custom GPTs and the create button. And then in the front and the middle here, you can see there's the marketplace and the search function. So you can look through the GPTs that other people have made. So here's an example of one of the GPTs we've produced. This was Anne's virtual CMO. So Anne, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'll try and give a good summary of this one. So this was built off the A10, was it?
Yeah, so this has got the A10 and the Integrate books behind it. This took me over a day to build, and my recommendation is please scan it. You'll find it will do so many jobs for you. The first thing to do is to say, how can you help me? And if you type that in, it's got a few prompts there in the middle that you can, you can use. But if you say, how can it help me? And you can create personas. You can put a URL of a website and say, create personas for this website for me, or you can provide the persona, and you can then create a content calendar. It can create a whole marketing plan for you, create sales hooks, etc., etc.
Yeah. So
you answering the question from David?
Yeah, I am.
David just asked a question about Copilot, which is Microsoft, which is part of the AI agents. We will get there eventually, David. So we're just working up the ladder at the moment. So bear with us.
Yeah.
Hopefully that's a good enough description of the virtual CMO. But I think all of you need this, and it will give you a really good idea. But this was not this was a couple of days work. So, and a lot of iterative process, and I had to keep on saving it and then coming back in and editing it, because one of the things when you learn to build these is that you can screw it up quite quickly. So it's always worth sort of deploying it or saving it as you go along, and if you've got a version that you like, and then you can always go back and improve it.
Yeah, just to say the background on this, if you have been to one of our conferences or seen us at any shows, you may have picked up a version of Anne's A10. So this is a comprehensive booklet.
One I had earlier.
There you go. Which goes through the whole process of producing an integrated marketing strategy for your business. So that is obviously a hard copy that we've got that we hand out as shows. The virtual CMO basically has that information baked into the custom GPT, so that it already understands that context that I was talking about with all of the information that Anne's produced. And then we've got this front end which people can go on and use, which basically walks people through the process of that A10 and builds a marketing strategy for them based on all that information. Then we've got the recruitment assistant. So this ChatGPT has got lots of information for us built on type of job descriptions and aspects of type of people that we look for when we recruit. And it helps walk people through the process of generating new job descriptions and all the things that we need in the process of going out there and finding new team members when we want to recruit. So very, very useful when we're starting that journey, because things like job descriptions and job ads are often very difficult for people, and they're quite time consuming. So having that information on the type of people that we look for, the type of skill sets they need, all of these different aspects allows us to very quickly create a recruitment process that we can then just go and set job ads live and look for the right people.
But this one's trained on Annika job description, so it's mainly things like PPC jobs and technical jobs. It's got ads in. So this would be an example where when you try it, see if it works for you, because obviously we provide you with the link. But if you were going to do something like this, you would build your own and you would upload all your own information. So I think that's quite important to know.
Yep. And then there's other ones. So I use this one a lot and versions like it in Claude. So meeting transcription is one of those things that people do find quite time consuming. I always cringe when I see people these days taking transcripts and reading through them and trying to remember what notes they've produced. Because nowadays you can create your own custom GPT, you can upload a transcript, and within the GPT instructions, you can ask it to provide a response that is specific to you and the information you want to see. And then once you upload the transcript, it will produce that in the style that you want it as well. There are different ways of going about doing this. And in fact, if you work on Google Meets, for example, and you hit the transcript button, you will likely get a summarized version of your transcript through as well. But if you want something more advanced and you want something specific to you, it might be time to think about using a custom GPT, so you get it back in the style that you want. There is a version.
Sorry.
There is a version later.
We may have going to say the same thing. The main difference between Claude projects, which we prefer, and custom GPTs is custom GPTs you can share it with other people. With Claude projects at the moment, you can't get a shareable link. But for Annika's perspective, most of us actually prefer Claude projects.
So where this really came into its own, because when I talk to teams about automating processes, creating agents, creating custom GPTs, there's basically two fundamental things we want to focus on when deciding whether to automate something, because not everything should be automated, but can it be faster as a result of using AI, and can it be better as a result of using AI? And for the purpose of transcripts, I worked with Rajal, who's our head of client account management, and she does all the communications with clients. And what often happens is when we get a client on board, by the point where we've signed contracts and we're ready to start a project, there's been a million conversations that's already occurred. There's that first conversation, maybe with one of our sales people. There'll be some onboarding, some questions that we ask. There will be some questions around budgets and time constraints, and then the actual sales process where we pitch an idea and then we win the contract. So there might be 7 or 8 different conversations that have occurred up to that point. And what Rajal was doing was, at the point of onboarding, where we go through with the client and our team and we start to talk about where the project is going to start, we have to produce a document that will go through all of the detail from those prior conversations. And you can imagine it would be quite common that conversations that had at the very start of that process might be missed, or information might be lost along the way. And we call it a kickoff document that happens at that stage. It needs to be produced in a certain style, to a certain template. And what we've created is a Claude project that is able to take all those transcripts and all the different styles and formats that it comes in, understand and crunch that information, and then produce it as an output in a templated style that we want, so that we can then go ahead and have that meeting. And when I talk about faster and better, you can imagine, at least from a time perspective, getting all that information and understanding it all, especially if you're not part of those meetings, can be quite time intensive. And also human nature, there are going to be things that naturally we don't pick up on as a result of looking through all of those transcripts and trying to understand that information. And what AI is really good at is picking out the details, and you have to prompt it right so it looks at what's important and what's not. It collects all that information like a fishing net and then puts it into that template, and all the information is there. And then we can go through and check it, and that comes back to Anne's sandwich philosophy, where if we were to just take that information and then present it, there are going to be times where AI hallucinates or gets things wrong. And so we still have to go through it and check it. And did you say this, Sean, when we're talking about a conversation that someone in sales might have had with the client very early days, and check that it's all correct. And the only other thing I'd say on anything to do with automation is there is an element of, I don't want to call it laziness, but there's a natural tendency to not engage with content and media when things are done for you. And if you don't get hands-on with things, sometimes you lose the ability to really truly understand something, because we're just taking something that an AI has produced and then repeating it. And so we need to make sure we're still finding ways to engage with the outputs of AI, so that we're not losing touch with the work that we're producing. So I think we'll build one, shall we? Right, let me share my screen. Tell me if you see a big orange blob.
Yep. That's a very orange blob.
Yeah. So GPTs, like I said, if you've got the paid plus subscription, on the left over here, you'll see GPTs. And obviously, if you scroll down, as many of you probably will know, you can see Anne's cat on a motorbike prompt has come up here. At the top, you'll see the most used GPTs that you've created and used recently. And above that, you've got GPTs. So if we click on GPTs, this is the search function we've got. You can see that they've got some featured and trending custom GPTs that other people have made that you can then use. And you can do a search for that. So if you're producing content, you can type content and you can give some other people's GPTs a go. Like I said, I don't really use this much. Maybe it's just the fact that like to just control the outputs, and I'd rather create my own, but I've never really utilized these and found them that helpful. But there are ones here sometimes that you may find are useful. Up on the right hand side, you'll have two options, My GPTs and Create. So if I click on My GPTs, you'll get a full list of all the GPTs you've ever created, and you can see we've got tons. ChatGPT's been a bit slow today, but if you load more, you'll get more of them. And then you can find these. So if you want to iterate or work on your custom GPT later, go to My GPTs, and then you can click on the pencil there. It'll take you through to your GPT, which I'll show you now, and then you can edit it and improve it as you go along. So at the top here on the right hand side where we were earlier, you'll see Create a GPT. So if I click Create, we're presented with this screen. Now there's two panels on this screen. The left hand side is your kind of edit panel, and the right hand side is your preview panel. So you can test it as you go, make sure it's working as you want it to. On the left hand side for the edit panel, we've got two options. We've got Create and we've got Configure. Now if you're starting out with this and you're creating your first custom GPTs, I would use Create and then flick over to Configure, so you're starting to understand how the agent is being built and the kind of behind the scenes of it. It's not that technical, even the Configure side, and I'll run through both. For the purposes of today, I'm going to do something around NDAs because I've got a more advanced agent that shows the next level up should you wish to go there. I know NDAs are a bit boring, but it's what I've been building recently, so I think it's a good example. So let's say we've got an NDA, non-disclosure agreement, that me sitting in operations, maybe salespeople are always asking me, can we create an NDA for this client, or teams that want to have conversations with potential clients, they need to produce these documents quickly. And then what I'm doing is getting that message, finding our template. I'm asking them lots of questions around who the client is, their company number, their address, who the contact is, editing that template, sending it to them, and then they're sending it on to the client. What we could do is create a custom GPT, which has that template within it already. And then team members can use that custom GPT agent to then just type in the details and get a response out that then they can just send on to the client. So in this example on the left-hand side where you've got Create, this is a language model style thing. So similar to how you've used ChatGPT in the past, you can just ask it questions. So I want to, I'm sorry if my keyboard is too loud. I want to create an agent that builds NDAs for me. It needs to ask questions. Now, if you have a look at my NDA really quick, what I've got is a template which I utilize. And then within that template, I've got these little squirrely brackets, which basically tell me, well, it initially told me, make sure you fill in this information. So when people ask me for an NDA, I'd go in, I'd look company name, right? I need to put company name in there. So because I've got this already, I can utilize that in the custom GPT. So if I take, for example, let's take these squirrely brackets. There's a technical name for that, I'm sure. It needs to ask questions to fill in the information that is left blank. This is denoted by these characters. And then I'll say something along the lines of ensure that all empty fields are populated by asking the user the questions, the relevant questions. Doesn't have to be perfect. Now, someone mentioned hallucination earlier, and hallucination is something that is prevalent in AI. AI wants to please, and it will always try and do its best to fill in the gaps and produce a result for you. But sometimes we don't want to do that. And especially with legal documentation, we want to make sure that the AI is not coming up with some additional wording that we're not aware of or don't want to put in there. So it's important, if you're doing something like this, that you give it the context and the instructions that you need. So I often say the word important so it knows it's important. Do not change the wording other than as directed above. This is a legal document. And we'll just put enter and we'll let that go. So what it'll do is it'll update the GPT for us. It'll add all the instructions as it thinks we want it. It'll ask you for a name, so NDA builder, yes, and it'll give it a name. And it'll also generate a profile picture, which is usually awful, but for the purposes of if you're just building your own custom GPTs, it's just a visual to show you that you know what you're looking at. So I'm going to say yes, that's fine. Now, what we haven't given it yet is my template. So this is where we go over to configure. And what you can see here, and you can edit this yourselves, and when we get onto prompting, it's worth learning a bit about prompting, especially markdown prompting or XML, any format which AI can read easily and quickly and understand the context of what you're asking it. It's tried to do that here based on the instructions I've given it. So you can see it's populated the name. You can change that anytime you like. Description, instructions, it's populated here for me. It's given me some conversation starters. Now you can delete these out. And you can maybe, this is for other users that may want to use it. Or I'd do something like click to get started. Now under knowledge, this is where you want to upload your information. So I believe I have a template, which I'll upload here, and it's got that knowledge now. So it's basically got this template with all of these squirrely brackets in, and it knows not to edit this aside from changing the details. Once you're finished with your custom GPT, you can then hit create, which is just under this pop-up, and you've got three options. You can either do it so it's just you, so anyone that's on your version of ChatGPT are the only people that can see it. You can have anyone with a link, so anyone you share this link with will get a version of this, or you can upload it to the GPT store, which I've never personally done because I've got no need to do that. And then you get the link, and you can copy that link and you can share it with others if you want. And if they're in their GPTs, they'll be able to see that. And then you can give it a go on the right. So if I click get started, what I'm hoping it will do, although not giving it a huge amount, it's got updates pending. When you click get started, what I would hope it would do is based on my instructions here, it would then go, okay, so we've got an NDA template. I'm going to look for squirrely brackets. I'm going to start asking the user questions. So, okay, what's the company name? What country are they in? What's their company number? Their address? And as the user is prompted to return with that information, it's populating that into the template. When it's finished populating all of those gaps, it will then produce the text. And there are some disadvantages to doing it this way. Now, one of the main disadvantages I've found in this case is that it will produce text for you, but it won't produce it in this nice formatted response that I've got. So it won't, for example, put my logo in there, and it won't necessarily format it in the same way. You could try and prompt it to format it in the same way, and it may be able to do that. But essentially what you're doing is focusing on the actual text and build part, and then you would copy paste that into a Word doc. Now I have got a more advanced version later that retains all of that formatting and the logo and all the other information as well. But that's when we get into agents later. So that is essentially how you do it. It's relatively easy to get going with. Once you've bought the license, you can go in, you can have a look, you can start to create. This is an example with NDAs, but obviously you can use it for anything. So I've got, for example, let me see if I can load up my own version of ChatGPT.
The CMO one's quite interesting.
We'll go through that one then. So I've built loads over time. So for example, I've got one that this is a personal one for me, but say for example, there's a news story that's hit today about a certain subject, and I want impartial feedback on that subject. I want it to look at centrist views on it, left-leaning views, right-leaning views, different cultural views on that article, and then provide me with a critique of the news source, and provide me with a balanced output of what people think about this news story. I thought it'd be cool to just create something like that. We've got the NDA assistant. Tender one's quite good. So we do a lot of tender applications where we'll get questions, and they need really detailed answers, but they're often quite repetitive answers as well. So we can upload things like previous answers we've given in previous tenders. I can upload some financial information, although slightly redacted, because I'm always conscious what we share with these models. And then when we do a tender process, I can ask it a question. It's got all of our policies, everything else, so it knows how to provide a really nice answer in our style, and it just helps speed up that tender process. We've got loads. The kickoff generators here, although we've got that in Claude now. I've got so the client one is one I've built over time. This helps when you're going into a pitch, for example, and I want to test a strategy that we might be presenting, or some costs that we might be presenting. I've built this to basically be highly critical of the person that you're talking to, and this is done through the voice mode. So when you're on ChatGPT, you can obviously dictate and talk to it. So I can load up that client, I can load it up so it's starting to talk to me, and then I can present an idea to it. And then what ChatGPT will do is then ask questions. Well, why is the cost this? What do you think about the strategy there? I'm not so sure about this. And it helps people prepare. So you can think outside the box with some of these custom GPTs and the range of different ways in which you can use it. We've got hundreds, and I could spend all day just talking about custom GPTs.
Quite a lot of these we think we're going to convert into more of an automation process and put them on the AI agent marketplace. So we hope we'll find an easier way. Somebody asked me why they can't search for it deliberately. We don't want to share our ideas at this stage. So very happy to share to people that come to our webinars and give them a link, but not more openly. Somebody else asked, sorry,
go on. Yeah.
Somebody else asked earlier on, can you charge for it? Yeah, effectively what you would do is put the link to your private custom GPT behind a paywall. So basically, if you wanted to sell it, you'd have to almost create like an e-commerce shop.
Just to note, Claude has its own version called Projects. It works in a very similar way, although I don't think it gives you that nice language model style, talk to me and tell me what you want type thing. But in a similar way, I feel like my spelling's got worse since AI started doing things for me. I'm just going to put test in here. You will get this type of panel, and you can just tell it what you want it to do in this box here. You can upload some information through the project knowledge. So where I had my NDA, that's where I'd upload that. And I have to say, recently I found Claude far better at most of the tasks I ask it to do than ChatGPT, although there are cases when I use both. So when people say which one is better, there's really no good answer to that. But I just find Claude understands context, especially things like complex PDFs. It just seems to understand them, and some complex Excel documents as well. When I'm asking it to review Excel documents, it just seems to get what the Excel document is talking about. Whereas ChatGPT, things like merged cells, it starts to get really confused and it just falls apart quite quickly.
The only other limitation with both ChatGPT and Claude Projects, Custom GPT and Claude Projects, is the amount of files you can upload and the length of the prompt. You get something called a context window limitation. There is another project tool that you can use called Google Notebook LM, which allows you to load up a lot more information. There have been some questions about privacy. Could you just type in Notebook LM in the chat, please, so that get a link or something? The advantage of this is it only really utilizes your information, so it's less likely to hallucinate, and you can load a lot of material. So when I was researching writing the C10 book, which I'll talk about later, I did use that for a while, because you can, if you're writing big chapters for a book and you've got lots of research, it's a better place. Cool. Excellent. Let's share some slides and get on to the next section, which is about agents. So I'm going to make my screen full size. Okay. Do you think it might be worth taking a 5-minute comfort break, Darren? Because I think we're going to go past, it's 10:30 at the moment, but I do think we're going to go a little bit after 11.
Let's have 4 minutes. We'll come back a couple of minutes past past.
Okay, no problem. I'll leave that on the screen. It was more of a feed the cat break rather than a comfort break. If you've got any more questions in the chat, please ask, and then we can. Okay. So a couple of interesting questions. I think that the film industry will, Joey's asking about the film industry. I think what will happen with the film industry is that it will the skill set will change. So I think they're already using AI, but you still need the ideas and the creativity. It's just some of the sort of slog work around editing and producing different content will be different, but it'll be faster. But the quality is amazing. I don't know if any of you have tried VO, and there's a new Imogen, which are both part of Google, that's just come out. So definitely have a look at that. E-commerce, so funnel sheet as run by that e-commerce support one is a little bit, I would need to understand a bit more specifically what you're asking there. In the sense of marketing funnels, is this things like creating an awareness ad over in Facebook and then creating a performance max over in Google? There's a couple of, we're looking at a couple of different platforms for creative. If it's video, I definitely recommend VO, which is the Google platform. And then there are some, I think it's Creatify is one of the ads platforms. But it really depends on what you're doing. So I would need to, I'm not sure who's posted that. I'd need to really speak to you on an individual basis to give you a bit more advice. But it is an area that we are looking at for one of our clients. One of our AI ambassador clients have specifically said that they want us to use AI in ads and video production. Okay. Sarah, we will do something on what's called vibe coding. She's asking about building a simple website. So I'm using Bolt. A lot of people like Lovable. I think Lovable's easier to use, but the thing I like about Bolt is that you can then integrate it with the back end using something like Superbase. And then there's another one called Replicate, CIT on the end. So there's quite a lot, but I think that will probably be one of our, we're going to do a whole program of AI webinars in August. It's going to be called, instead of August, it's going to be called, but that will be at a different time. So that's going to be probably Wednesday evening. Okay. Yes, we can get the chat transcript. We have to anonymize it though, unless you guys have got a problem with, unless everybody says no, it's fine. But it's quite difficult for us to opt out. But we can. It comes across in a spreadsheet, so we can get rid of the names of the people when we share the transcript. Which one are you answering, Darren? Is it the
data protection and data security, which is it's difficult at the best of times to understand, and even when we're told certain information isn't retained or shared, there is conflicting arguments to say that it is. I think in most cases, if you're using basic versions of these platforms, you need to revert to the default position of would I be happy if this was in the public domain or not, and then go from that basis. But like we'll talk about later, and it's been mentioned, Copilot and Microsoft tools generally have more robust information around what is secure, where your data is held, and what it's used for. And a lot of clients that we're talking to at the moment work in Microsoft already. They've got teams, etc., and for that reason want to stay within that ecosystem.
Just on that, even the £20 version of ChatGPT, you shouldn't upload any confidential information. The Teams version, which I think is £30 per user, does have some level of security. The good thing about the AI agents, which is what we're going to cover next, is that they rely on the APIs, and the information via the API is not shared. So there is different levels of protection. Somebody's also asked a question about Llama. Now, I've not personally used Llama, but Llama and DeepSeek and a couple of other ones have got open source versions. So you can actually, an open source version is another way of getting around these security issues, in that you can run the AI on your local machine, so it's not connected to the internet. But the disadvantage of that is that you can't call in from other tools. So you can't post to Facebook or Gmail and things like that. So you've got to be thinking about, well, I already do a lot of stuff in the wide web, but it's the fact that you don't want to share the AI with the training. You don't want to share your material, confidential information with the training data. So you've either got to upgrade to a higher level of the AI platforms, or go through the API, or go back to something like Copilot. So I don't want to spend too much time working on the security, because this course today is more the practical understanding of what the art of the possible is. And then when we start getting into sort of our consultancy strategy piece, that's when we start to bring in some of these other considerations. And it's very much on a bespoke level. So we can talk in general terms today, but we're not going to be able to cover everything. Anyway, I'm going to get going with the AI agents. Are you okay, Darren, to keep on with the chat conversation? I think.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to expand my screen again. Brilliant. So what the hell are AI agents? Now, most of you had not heard of AI agents before this conversation, but if you look in Google Trends, you'll see that it's almost like a hockey stick. There's more than 1 million searches a month on the term AI agent, and it's if you start talking about it on LinkedIn, you'll find that your whole feed will be completely dominated by anything to do with AI agents and workflows, etc. So the best way of describing it is describing them as mini workers that carry out tasks on your behalf. They can observe, plan, and act either autonomously or semi-autonomously, which means either on their own or with the help of human, to complete objectives. So you give it a job to do. And they tend to be triggered by rules, things that they sense from the environment, like a form being filled in, or scheduled timings. So those are the sorts of things that they can do. In the same way that if you think about it, if you have a property on sale on your local estate agent, every night as a new property is uploaded onto the website at 12 o'clock or whatever the time is, those properties will be loaded over to Rightmove every day. So this sort of triggering an API, sending information from one place to another, it's called cron jobs, KHRON, as in chronological, as in time. This has been going on for years within websites, and APIs standing for application program interface, which is the way that different software talks to each other. We won't go into the technical aspects of that, but if you want to post to email, or if you want to send an email, or you want to post to Facebook or LinkedIn, there's an API or an interaction happening from wherever you're doing that. So this is what's going on in the back end. Okay, so the large language model makes the decision and generates the output, and it will take purposeful actions to achieve its defined objectives. And I'm going to show you a really simple example in a minute. Now, the next level up is the concept of orchestration agents, which I find difficult to pronounce. And these can manage and coordinate multiple task-specific agents. So if you think of it like a manager with a whole load of workers underneath it. So say, for example, you've got a marketing team and you've got your social media manager, and you are the MD, and you say, we're going to be doing, or you're the marketing director, and say, we're going to be doing a campaign to launch our AI training course. And you then would go to your social media manager, and the social media manager will go to the designer, and then the social media would post to all these things. Now, you can do that with AI. So basically, you'd have a social media manager, which you would communicate as a human, talking to the social media manager, and it would have a team of workers. It would have a content creator. It would have an image creator. It'd have a QC checker. It would then have a post to Facebook, post to Instagram, post to LinkedIn, and then it would have some form of analytics agent that sees how well it's doing, and that could also feed in and create like a feedback loop to improve the performance of the other agents. So that's what we mean by an orchestration agent. Now, a super agent, which is a terminology I've seen banded around, is an agent that can interact with your desktop or browse the web. And we mentioned this earlier on. So basically, OpenAI Operator, which I think you get with the £200 a month version, but Manus, which is a Chinese version, SparkGen, Claude MCP, they all work in slightly different ways, but they've got the ability to either access the files on your desktop or on the server within a company, or even they might even create their own mini browser, and then they'll go and do a job like book a holiday for you. Now, this technology is available now, and what we see is going forward is that you won't go into Rightmove to search for a property. You'll say to your phone or to Alexa or your voice agent or whatever it is, oh, can you go and see if there's any new properties come on the market in LE2 7PG since we last looked and talked about it? And it will know when we last did it. It'll go and do that. Or can you book me a flight to New York for next week? I need to be there for a meeting by this time. Can you work out what the best flight is? And it will just go and do it for you. And so if you're an e-commerce website, what's going to happen is that you won't be selling to humans. You'll be selling to agents that have been controlled by humans. So you're going to need to make sure that your website is accessible, that the payment systems works with agents. So it's going to be a whole new evolution or revolution, I would probably say, over the next 2 years as this changes. However, interestingly, I was really worried this was going to happen in the next 2 years. But whenever I do a talk, there's so many people that are at the bottom of this sort of maturity ladder. I think it might take a little bit longer than I initially suspected. But then the learning curve is so rapid and everybody's learning this stuff so quickly. You don't know how quickly this is all going to happen. So let's give you an example then. So this is the idea of automating, creating a link, in this case, a LinkedIn post, but it could be creating a social media post and then posting to LinkedIn and Meta. So what I've got is a LinkedIn drive, I've got a drive sheet, which I've called my AMS LinkedIn automation sheet. And it's very simple. It's only got 4 columns. It's got your content idea, which you could have got from ChatGPT to generate this. And these are all about e-commerce marketing mainly. And then you've got, this starts off being blank, but then you've got any content that the agent has created for you. And you can see in this case, it's got some emojis, it's got some hashtags, because that's the way I prompted it. And then it's got an image that it's brought back. You've seen my sort of cat on a motorcycle in a city. And then you've got the controller column. Now, the controller column, which you can see here, because I've just done the drop down, is generate content, which the 2 above are. And then what happens is that the AI will come back and populate it with ready for review and add these 2 in here. I then manually go and say, right, I want to create a post now. So this one is ready to go. And then once it's been posted, it's got confirmed. So let's have a look at the workflow that generates that. So this would start off completely blank. And then if we ran the automation now, it will come back with 2 new fields here, these 2 rows with a post idea, an image, and ready for review. And we would then review it. And if we liked it, we change it to create a post. So this is an example of an agent workflow, and this is semi-autonomous because this requires humans. And this is a really simple one to understand. And the workflow that I'm showing you has been created in Make, which is an example of one of the many workflow canvases, automation software. Zapier was one of the first. You've got Make, you've got N8N, N8N. Whenever you hear a transcription, it sounds like NAN. But there's relevance, there's flow, there is MindStudio. So there's loads and loads of people developing these. And what's happening at the beginning, you can see these choices that I've taken from the spreadsheet, is every 15 minutes, it's going to the Google Sheet because you've linked your credentials and you've linked your Google Sheet here. And then this is the trigger. So the trigger is every 15 minutes and it goes and looks at the sheet. And depending what was in that controller node, it will make a decision of whether it's going to go the top way or the bottom way. So this is like a router, sometimes called a switch. And if you've used Zapier or you used HubSpot or some of the marketing automation, it's a if this then that type switch. So it depends on you. So you build the conditions, and the conditions are built here. You can see the little funnel. So if the condition in the controller column on the spreadsheet says generate content, it goes along the top route. And if it is create a post, it goes along the bottom route. So let's go and have a look what's going on. So this is called the trigger. These are the functional nodes. And then these are the interactions or the connectors. And the first thing you have to do is you have to connect your Open AI, and we have to go through the API, which is a bit of a mouthful. So this has been connected to your Open API. I always struggle with this. Your Open AI API, which you have to go and get the API key. And that's just basically gives you access. Now, we're not going to show you how to do that at this point. We'll show you that later. But effectively, that gives you access. And you don't do that through the ChatGPT interface. You have to go into what's called the Open AI Playground. It's sometimes called Playground. It's sometimes called Console. And you will have account linked to what you log in with, or you have to create a new account, and then you can go get your API key. So that links you up. And then it generates from your content idea that's in the first column, your post. And remember, we've prompted this to get the sort of prompt that you like. We've provided information about your brand guidelines. And then
we're on the example of agent workflow slide. Is that correct?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And then it goes through and creates the image, and then it goes and sends it back over to your Google Sheets. And of course, in this case, you've had to log into Google Sheets as well. So we've gone along the top flow there, and we've created the post. If you remember, it looks like this. It's basically, that's what it's done. Now what it's going to do is it goes along the bottom post. It's going to collect that information from Google Sheets using this webhook, which is very commonly used in this automation, because sometimes there isn't a node already made. So it has to talk to the previous step, and then it's going to talk to your Facebook account, which you've connected, your Instagram account, which is connected, your LinkedIn account, which is connected, and then it's going to tell Google Sheets. So that's basically how that very, very simple automation works. It's very easy to understand. And what I would do is I'd also stick another node in here, which is go and email me or send a message to Teams to let me know that it's actually created. So we'll just stop for a second and see if there's any questions.
I think the confusion was because we couldn't see your cursor. So if you were pointing things out.
Okay. Is that because you've got it, or no? I don't think it shares the cursor on this one. So sorry, I was going along the top one, the top route to generate the code, and the bottom route to post the code, if that makes more sense. But that's useful to know, Darren, because I didn't realize that. Okay, now the other thing you can do with these agents, and I wanted to show you a really cool example, is that the agents can do things in the background. So this is a fully autonomous agent that we've built, or we are building, and we've got a demo for you. I'm not going to show you the workflows because I haven't got it for you today, but basically what this does is it has a conversation with somebody calling in to the customer service of Charles Bentley. So I'm going to pay you quite a bit of this, but because it doesn't work on here, I'm going to pay you the recording that I have got up here. Should give me an audio. Okay, it's not going to do that. I loaded it up early, but I've minimized it, and now it seems to have gone. So let me go this way, do audio. It might still be there. Oh, there, it's still there.
Hello, thank you for calling Charles Bentley Customer Service. My name is Charlie, and just to be completely transparent, I am an AI assistant. How can I help you today?
Oh, hello, Charlie. I just wanted to find out where my order was and whether it's been dispatched or not.
Of course, I can help with that. Could you please let me know where you purchased your item from? For example, was it directly from the Charles Bentley website, Amazon B&Q, or another retailer?
It was the Charles Bentley website.
Thank you for confirming that. To locate your order, could you please provide the delivery postcode for your order? If you're not sure, it's the postcode where the item's been delivered.
It's LE2 7PG.
Thank you. And could you please confirm the surname associated with the order?
Yeah, it's Anne Stanley.
Thank you for those details, Anne. I can see your order here. Great news, your order has been dispatched via DPD. You should receive tracking information by email, and delivery is typically within 1 to 3 days, though larger items like furniture may take a bit longer due to their size and complexity. Is there anything else I can help you with regarding your order?
No, not with my order, but I did fancy one of your outdoor rugs. I think it's out of stock. I wondered if you could check it for me.
Absolutely, I'd be happy to check that for you. Could you please tell me the name of the rug or describe it, or do you have a product code from the website?
It was the diamond lightweight outside rug. I think it was in grey.
Thank you for that information. I can see that the diamond lightweight weatherproof rug in grey is currently out of stock. We don't have a specific restock date available, but you can use the follow feature on the product page of our website to be notified when it comes back in. But we do have some lovely alternatives, if you would like to hear about those.
Oh, yes, please.
We have 2 great alternatives available. First, the diamond weatherproof rug in black. This is exactly the same rug as the grey one you were looking at, just in black.
So I'll stop it there because what happens next is it goes on, because it's halfway through, and I don't want to go on too long. But it goes on, and I ask it about the alternatives, and then I ask it the price. And then what I do is I say, can you WhatsApp or message me the link? And it says, no, sorry, I can't do that. And then it volunteers to get our customer their customer services to actually email me the link, and then it checks my email. So what it's doing is quite sophisticated, and this is why you have to have this rag of knowledge and train it. So it's a sort of an 8-month project, because you have to link to the APIs of the courier, you have to link into the API or the website or the product information site, so that you can see if something's in stock. You also have to check the person's details to see whether it's been dispatched. Sorry, going back to the order tracking. Then you have to have information on alternative products. You have to train it away the way that it talks to you. So somebody's asked about the accent. I'm not quite sure what the accent was. I think it was a Midlands accent, but there's a whole load of pre-configured. They're originally from Labs 11, who's very big in this. And then we put guardrails in, so it's not going to take any money. It's not going to send links, but you can do that as a phase 2. Now, a voice agent like this costs somewhere between 10 and 20K to build, and then between 1,000 and 2,000 a month. So it's about half the cost of employing somebody. It's available 24 hours a day, and it never loses its temper and actually answers the information a lot quicker. So one of the things that is really good is that it allows you to stop your agents having to do the really boring "where's my order," which is probably 80%, the really routine stuff, and actually focus on anywhere where the agent wants to escalate it up to a human, or the trade inquiries, or the more complicated ones. So you have that sort of triage at the beginning, where the voice agent will deal with most of it. But then the humans deal with the more specialized stuff. So it means that you're not putting people out of work, but it's brilliant if you want to grow your business. And remember, we can do this with lead generations as well. So we can book appointments. So there is another demo, which you might have seen, which I think is on the About Annika page, which is the master slide deck that this comes from originally, where there's a demo of Lucas who books appointments. So yeah, I think that's enough for that, but I want to show you how it works and what's the jump in technology. So what's happening is that there's a speech inquiry and then there's an answer. It doesn't matter which way round it is because it still works the same. And if you remember the model that we did earlier on, it's exactly the same technology that's actually deciding what the answers will be. But what you've got is at the beginning, you've got a speech to text conversion. And at the end, you've got text to speak conversion. So it's basically using exactly the same technology. But because the speech to text and transcription, a lot of which was developed to help people with assisted technologies, transcription of meetings with voice. You've got those old dictaphones which have been around for years. That technology is really, really mature, and that's the same technology that's used with that avatar or digital twin, which I showed you earlier on with AI Annie. Now, if we were solely an e-commerce audience, I would show you all the technology that's used to build Charlie. But what I thought I'd do is instead was just give you some of the examples of all the different types of things that you can do for e-commerce and marketing. You can use this as a reference later on. But I want to move on now and start talking about how we would decide what the hell you're going to do. But before then, I've got some more agents from Darren. So I'm going to pass over to Darren now. Sorry, Darren, I forgot we were going to do this bit.
That's okay. I will run through. Let's run through two quick examples, and I'll briefly show. Shall I show NAN really quick, just so we can get a taste of?
Yeah. Do you want to do the slides first and then do live?
Okay. So this was my first ever kind of interaction with agents and NAN came from a project that I wanted to undertake. The background to this one, I was sitting in the car in traffic and I had things flying around my mind. I need to send an email to this person. I need to add that to my to-do list, but I couldn't do those things because I was in traffic and I was driving. So I thought, well, I'd love a personal assistant type agent where I could talk to my phone and it would do a variety of things for me. So by the time I get to the office or wherever I'm going, I can review that and send it on, or have it ready in my to-do list, etc. So I ended up using Slack for this purpose because it's got some good transcription ability. I'm able to talk to Slack with voice notes, and I can talk to it as well. So if I'm in a conference and I need to send an email or add a to-do list or send something on Teams, I can do it all through one app. It works similar to this, but I'll actually show a live version in just a second on this one. That's how it looks, but I'll go through that in a sec. We can do other things with agents. So this is kind of an ongoing project for me, to have a UI, user interface, that's a chat interface at the front end, and then have the ability to be able to upload more advanced Excel documents and information and database and all this RAG information that Anne was talking about, to create a database that I can then ask it questions about. So for example, we've got some questions up here. What product sold the most in the last month? And doing that through a chat interface, it will then go look at the data and then come back with a response. Or maybe we want to upload this year's catalogue of things we want to buy into the business, and then say, well, for example, what happened last year in terms of sales? Is it a garden sector? Is it about a nice parasol? How many parasols did we sell? What was the margin on that? And then have a look through the current catalog, and then is there any examples of that? What's the cost this year? Those types of things, so we can get quick answers back from databases, and that can be used in loads of different ways. Mostly e-commerce is the kind of lean that I've got towards it at the moment, but it can be used in a variety of different ways. That's the example of that. We can use workflows and sub workflows, and when I'm starting to build out agents, we've got now AI models talking to other AI models that work together as kind of a botnet but through AI agents that are talking to each other, providing different pieces of information. If you just do, for example, if you had an agent that you wanted it to do some deep research on a subject, maybe deep research about a client or maybe about a particular industry, sending out one prompt asking it to do all that work is maybe not the best way to do it. But having an agent that maybe one aspect of this is the first agent that's prompted to go and look at recent articles from the last 6 months, collect that information into a database, and then have another agent that then reviews that database and provides a report back, and then another agent that then takes that report and then produces it into a document that then goes off to whatever tool we're using at the moment. That's where we would have workflows and sub-workflows going on at the same time. So let me just share my screen. I will be quick with this because I know we're running a bit behind, but just to give you an example, if I can find share screen.
I think we're going to need to have to run a Copilot Claude MCP session as one of our webinars. So I think we'll do that last because it's probably one of the most advanced ones.
Yeah. So this is NAN. We work off a private dedicated server for this stuff for security reasons, and it gives you more functionality. There is a cloud version, and you can sign up for free to get to have a play around with it. The way it works is quite simple. It's drag and drop type stuff. So you've got these various different nodes that you can, let me zoom in a bit, that you can add in by hitting little plus buttons, and you get a little search box up here. If I wanted to utilize, for example, Gmail, I can type in Gmail and I get Gmail here, and I get loads of different options. Create an email, create a draft, all of these different things. Delete an email, add a label to an email. And you can imagine all the different tools that this system has, plus all the ones we can create manually through code to actually interact with APIs in different ways, or webhooks, if you understand those terms, to pull in information. So even if there isn't a node for it, we can usually create a solution that works. This is the example of my P8. Now I have redone this, and I'm in the process of rebuilding this. So I've only got 2 nodes live at the moment. The old example had loads and loads of different stuff, but as new technology comes out, you want to utilize that technology in slightly different ways. So I'm rebuilding at the moment. But the basic premise of what this one does is takes a Slack message and then decides, is Darren talking to me or is it a text message? So if it's a voicemail, it goes through here. It waits for the transcript to be produced, and that transcript will be something along the lines of send an email to Anne. In fact, let me get it live. Let me see if my
we're not going to explain how you actually build this today. What we want to do is just show you how the nodes work, so you can start thinking about the sorts of things that you could process out. Now, our job is we provide the consultancy of understanding your processes, because we understand businesses, we understand marketing, we understand e-commerce, but then we work with our engineers to actually build this stuff. But because you can't really design something if you don't understand it, myself, Darren and James, we are building these workflows, and I built one this weekend, which took me forever. But I realise I'm much better at designing it than I am building it. So I'm more of an architect than a builder, whereas Darren actually, I think, is a really good builder. So you're just about to leave a message in Slack then, are you, Darren? Yeah,
for the sake of time, as one I did at 20 to 10 this morning, I said, write an email to Anne, and I can, this could be a voice note, so maybe I'm in the car, write an email to Anne telling her I need the slides for Tuesday the 1st. Now ignore this sassy response that I'm getting here. I have actually programmed it to be that way. You don't have to do that. But basically what I've done is got it to send me a confirmation once it's done. Because what you don't want is to do things and then think to yourself, is this working or not? So the last stage of this agent flow is to send me a message back saying, yes, I've completed that.
I think your reply is very sassy.
This is
in fact,
AI.
I would dismiss it on insubordination if somebody had written that.
Yeah, I know. I don't know why I've done that, but yeah, it confirms it. So then when I go through to my emails, when I get to the office, I've got drafts, and I could show you the draft, but it basically says what I want it to say in my tone of voice, ready to go. So I can just send that. Now you could automate this so it just sends it, but when we go back to the conversation around double checking, At this
AI
stage,
sandwich again.
AI sandwich. I don't want it to just go and send messages. I want to check that before. But basically, it goes through this process. So you can see multi-agents here. The first one establishes what it is I want. So I've prompted this one here to basically go through, check what it is I'm asking and what it needs to do with that information. Once it understands
in theory, you can do this without being able to code, because you can use ChatGPT and Claude to tell you what to write, what JSON, what scripts. But it does help if you've got somebody who knows what they're doing with code.
I'm a terrible coder. I know enough technically to be able to work with Claude to create custom nodes if I need to. Then it sends it through to this. This is like a switchboard. So basically, if I'm talking about email, it then passes it along this email thread, then sends it to another agent. Now this first agent is gives it my tone of voice. It asks it to check both who I want to email and what I want to email about, and then to construct that email. And then we've got one of those Gmail nodes here that's create a draft, and you could have that as send a message, but in this case, create a draft. And then that sends the draft message. This bit here on the end, if you saw that sassy message that AI sent back to me, you can see my rather embarrassing prompt here. Now
Your laboured assistant. Not a helpful assistant, which is what most people write. I'm getting a better understanding of you, Darren. After 15 years, I know more about you from this workshop than I have done after 15 years.
I know, right? But that then creates a message saying that you could say, "Tell me I've done it. Tell me you've done it once you've done it," and then that goes back to Slack to say, "Yeah, I've done it." This one is the other example with a to-do. You can see I've got other things here. So what I'm building out at the moment, it does work. I just haven't done it in the new format. You could ask it to do a LinkedIn post for me. It'll go through the same string, and then when it comes here, you could have one agent that does some research in the last month. If I said, do a post on LinkedIn about AI in the last month, and it will go, and then the first agent will do research.
Yeah, it's very similar to what I'm going to show you with Content Mammoth. So Content Mammoth is something similar. You start off with a form, and then depending on what you choose, you have different lines or routes for. It's a bit like a tube station, really, isn't it? You're following the routes. I think we probably have to go back to the slides.
Let me just show you one more thing. This is how simple you can make it, and this is the NDA builder, which I mentioned earlier, but this is in the new style where we can have an automation. So I've actually created a form here, and if I execute this step as a form, you'll see the kind of form. So I can send this to people in business now. They put in the details, who they want the NDA to be for, all the information that is required to build it. What happens then is the agent takes a copy of that template. It then updates that copy with all the information that the user has provided. It then shares it, because with Google Drive, you need to share access and make sure people have the right access to things so they can see the version. So it shares the right access with that individual, and then it sends an email to me and them, basically saying, here's your complete NDA, and it then walks them through the process.
It's like an automated mail merge without any AI, isn't it? Because you're not even using any AI in this one.
I'm not even using any AI. And when you get into agent building, it's important that you have in mind cost, because the more agents you build into a process, the more tokens you use, the more cost. Whereas this is completely free automation, has no AI in it at all, but still achieves the process. Now I could put some AI in here, but it's not necessary in this example. That's where we get into you don't have to use AI for everything, but it's a really useful automation, this one.
Cool.
I think I'll leave it there.
Yep, thank you. So you need to stop sharing your screen.
I will. I've just opened 100 screens.
Okay. Could you see if there was any questions?
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people are going on about Power Automate and Copilot.
Yeah, well, actually, I know I just said I'd stop, but let me just show you one more thing, because we did mention we'd talk about it. So we have Copilot has a version called Copilot Studio. If you're new to agents and building and you want to trial it out, if you've got the right license, you can go into Copilot Studio, and you can then start to build, similar to how we built Custom GPTs, you can tell it what you want it to do, and it will try and help you build that for you. Or you can go
Is that your handbook in Teams, for example?
So this is the handbook. So I originally had this as a custom GPT, and then I'd share the custom GPT link with people. Basically, our handbook is 200 pages long, loads of detail, but people have questions that they want to ask and find quick answers to. Like, for example, here, how do I claim expenses for eye tests? Now, what I've done is given it the knowledge of our staff handbook. I've given it some instructions on how to answer, and then we've actually uploaded this to Teams. So I've got Teams handbook bot now. So when you want to, if there's a question people have about the handbook, they can come in here. They can say, what's our policy around eye tests? How do I claim for expenses on that? You can see the things that pop up here. So for example, it'll give you a quote from the staff handbook, and it'll give you a quick answer from the staff handbook on the information that you need. So that's a really simple agent that can be built really quickly. Imagine you're an e-commerce business and you've got people that are constantly asking questions around the products because you've got 20,000 products and you want to know a specific answer about a specific product. Within Azure and the Copilot ecosystem, you could have a bot that sits on Teams where people could just ask questions about the product information database and get answers based on that. So there's so many applications that just this simple automation can achieve.
Excellent. Okay, let's keep going. Right, let's share the slides again. We're nearly there, guys. We're nearly there. So yeah, so what Darren was doing was explaining in practical terms the automation, but what I wanted to do was show you how I automated the transcription file, which is very, very similar. And this is part of the Mammoth content engine that we're building. And this is a really simple version. But effectively, the Mammoth content engine is a 3-component mega beast, hence the name Mammoth. The reason it's 2.1 is because James actually built something 2 years ago based on the Open AI API and using spreadsheets. And this was to create product descriptions using Excel, Python. It was a coded. Before we knew that Make and N8N existed, we obviously were using Zapier by then. And so what we wanted to do is create a fully automated system for creating content. And I've got something called a Christmas cracker model, where you've got the inputs on the left, you've got the engine in the middle, and then you've got the outputs on the right. And of course, there's one for each of the different modules. So the first one is sort of what Darren and I were just describing. You can create content for social, meeting notes, website pages, blogs, PR pieces. So it's sort of fully automating any text content. You can even do scripts for your video content, etc. This is all about creation of product descriptions, and that's to do with going into Magento or Shopify or Amazon, taking things like web scrapes, PDFs, etc. And that's really if you want to. And the reason that this is important is because people might get 1,000 new products a month that they need to upload. So you need a way of automating that. So for the transcription part, which is an example of Mammoth, it's a 2-step form. And the reason it's a 2-step form is that you put in the name of the person that's going to receive the content, and then you choose the type of content. So what would be here is one of those switches that we were just describing. And so in this case, I've chosen transcript. And then what I've done is I've got a form very similar to the NDA one. And I've got the title of content. I've got the uploaded file, which is PDFs, the duration of the meeting, the type of transcription. Do you just want a summary or you want very detailed notes, etc. The purpose of the content, the target audience. And then there's also the ability to add supporting documentation. And you can even just cut and paste a load of text in there as well. So we've given you lots of different options. You can use a URL. And so this is a manual form that allows you to easily and quickly create all your meeting notes. And I use it all the time. This is what it looks like. It actually looks more like a dumbbell really than a Christmas cracker. But you've got your 2 forms. this is just a single version, but obviously if we were doing it, this would have the switches like the one that Darren was showing. And then you're getting the information from the PDF, you're extracting that data. You've got to process the data before, you have to process the extracted data before you give it to the agent. Now, this is an AI agent that's got a model attached. Now, I've used Gemini because you can put a lot of content in Gemini. I prefer the writing from Claude, but it just can't cope with the size of the transcriptions, particularly if we're doing a pitch meeting. And then you've got a formatter to work out how to move it across. That checks that I've got the correct agent, so it's like a QC. Then it edits the fields, because one of the problems I found with Gemini, it put loads of line spaces in. Then it transforms it into HTML. It prepares a file, and then it's then sent as an email with the URL and the files attached. So I get something like an email like this, which says your content is ready. It's a summary. You can access it online, and then there's the attachment. And then if I go onto the attachment or click the link, and then you've got all your content. And this is actually scrolls down, so it's nice. It's like a little mini web page. I've hidden the names of the attendees. I didn't add them in. It picked it up from the conversation. And then that goes down. You can see how far that goes down and has all your meeting notes. So that is a really practical implementation. And this will be one that we will probably offer 25 free uses a day maximum. And then when you come onto the agents, then the agent marketplace. Now, we did do it a little bit the wrong way around because we've done the demo already. So I'll skip on to the next stage. So this is the platform that we're building. It's called the Mammoth AI Marketplace. And you've got, it's almost like a shopping cart. And you've got a mix of paid agents and free agents and these are mocked up. So this is a prototype. But you can see there we've got various different ones that are free, and you don't have to pay. So this one, ad copy generator, is a free one. And when you click on through to it, you just go to a form very similar to what I've just shown you. Okay, right then, we'll just come to the final section now. What we're going to do is we're just going to explain how the hell you implement this into your business. So first of all, you need to decide what AI and automation to implement, because your brains are exploding with either information overload or ideas at this point. You know, it's going to go two ways. You're going to be really excited, be thinking all the things you can do, how you can do this for your business, etc. So first of all, what I've done is I've created something called the C10 AI Adoption Framework. And it starts with the challenges at the top. So I'm going to show you a little bit about how we identify what the challenges are and give you some tools to do that yourself. But what we've done for most jobs that you use a computer, we've divided them into different types. So if you think about it, the try-on app would come in under customers. The voice agent would come in under comms. The ability to create content would come in. So things like the Mammoth engine would come in here. Integrating and making, improving your PPC or your SEO would come in this bit. Connecting all the apps will come in here. Control is the analytics. So things like the Armadillo agent, but any of your tracking or your brain would come in here. And then company is all the stuff that Darren's been building. So that could be an email agent. It's almost like a virtual assistant, but it's done using AI rather than, a person. Now, I focused on this part very deliberately, but you can't get away from looking about the costs and also looking at the compliance. So we've got ethics in there, we've got GDPR, we've got data protection, we've got cybersecurity, we've got copyright regulations. So there's a whole load of stuff in compliance. And then with costs, you've also got ways of saving money with things like price scraping and stuff like that for e-commerce. But then you've also got the cost of the project and how much return you're going to get. So that's why it's sort of there, but it could be here as well. So what you need to do is a discovery process. So I've made this into 3 boxes. So you've got AI discovery, which is what do you spend most of your time doing? What tasks are repetitive, time consuming, or data heavy? So we recommend some form of brainstorming workshop, which we call a discovery workshop. And it's really how it's what Darren said. Can you do it faster or better? Because you don't want to just reproduce old processes if you can do something that you couldn't do before. And is it going to give you a better internal experience, or is it going to give you a better customer experience? I think it comes down to productivity, profitability, and customer experience. Now, the tools that we've been building internally, we'll be able to then offer to clients. And if it can be just done with a form, it will be free. But if it relies on you logging in and having credentials, so for example, it involves you logging into your own email, then there'll be a charge for setting it up, and then a charge to cover the API costs. Also, as soon as you start charging for agents, you have to spend a lot more money with NAN because you then have to go into a proper enterprise license. So that's why some of these agents can't be free. I have to charge for them on an ongoing basis. We also got various integration blueprints, and that's part of our sort of IP around our paid audit process. So what we do is, first of all, we do a call similar to this, which is where we understand your requirements, and it might be that you already know exactly what you want to do. So most clients at the moment, particularly e-commerce, they either want a voice agent, they want a part or all of Content Mammoth, and they might have a few internal processes and business processes that they want to automate. So if you've already know what you want to do, then that's a much simpler process. But if you want a full process review of everything that you do within your organization and how you can automate it, then that initial discovery process is $5,000. And that will give you a big document and will allow us to create specifications for the ones that you decide to do. Now, when you go through an audit process, we did one actually a week ago with Charles Bentley. Actually, it was this week, wasn't it? We did the initial hours presentation to educate the team of some of the things that we've been doing, what the art of the possible was. It was a bit shorter than what we've done today because we weren't really going into the detail of how NAN and custom GPTs worked. We then did a 20-minute to 30-minute exercise, and this was with the leadership team. So there was four groups of 5 or 6, and then they just had a brainstorm between them, and they came up with a list of challenges, the things that were a real nightmare or taking loads of time, or they needed to expand it, the bottlenecks within the business. And each group came up with 5 to 6 ideas. So we quickly generated in 20 minutes 25 ideas, and we asked them to then go away and stick them on a drive sheet, and then the leadership team would score them, and then the board would score them, because a leadership team is going to find something very, very important, but it's not necessarily what the business needs to focus on. So effectively, you have the department, you have the challenge or idea, who suggested it, because they might end up being the lead, and then you've got a scoring system of the time saved, the improvement or gains, and then how easy it would be, and then we can identify the quick wins. So that's the sort of process that you can go away and do yourselves without needing us. You can use this webinar as a training session to your team, but when you want to go into the real detail or you need something to build it, then that's when you come and talk to us. And that comes back to our original offer and the slide that we talked about right at the beginning. So we are offering so because this is a 2-part process, we do that discovery workshop first. That's worth $1,000, but then the full C10 discovery workshops, going in, talking to your leadership teams, can be anything from £5,000 upwards, depending on how many teams you've got. If you're just going into a marketing team, obviously it's a lot quicker than if you're going into the whole business. We have got a couple of these to give away. But you've got to have a budget of £10,000 or more for implementation. We're not going to just go in and do this for you. But we will definitely, depending on what your budget is and what your requirements are, we will definitely do the workshop for you. But it might be that we will be able to do a bigger audit depending on what your budgets are and what your requirements are. And the other thing I want to talk to you about is that we've got a 10-day AI and training automation course. So we've done this in 3 hours. What we did today would be probably 4 days, spread over 4 days in the actual full course. If you go and scan the code, you'll go to, and it's actually in the navigation, if you go to the knowledge section of the Annika site and go to AI, 10-day AI course in the knowledge section, there's a whole page. There's also a webinar explaining this in detail. It's got the agenda for every day. And then you can also download this PDF, which is a physical one. So if you need to give this to your boss, email us. We have got an early bird. The first course is in September. The next one is planned for November, and then it's every 2 months. And the early bird is a 20% discount, and that so the normal price of the course is 6K. You can do it as 3 separate modules. You'll notice there are 3 separate modules. So you could do the first module, which is done over 4 days in 1 week. And then there's various flexible options. You can do 1 day a week, or you can do the whole thing in 3 weeks. So we're offering 3 different options. Because we know things are moving so fast, we almost need to do one course, close it down, make sure the materials are up to date, and then do it again. But it will give you access to the community, and you will get free access to any future webinars that are paid for. All the AI agents, you'll get the £50 a month license, etc., etc. So if you feel that you need to do a scan again, this is your opportunity to fill in that form and say, do you know what? I really need to do this 10-day course, or I need my team, or I need to come in for an AI workshop, an audit. So please, if you feel like that will be helpful, grab that link. If you can grab that link again, Darren, and put it in the chat. And then that is a pussycat on a motorcycle driving through Leicester. And this was done using image workflows, something called Comfy UI on Flow Scale. I did not prompt this. It was a very complex combination of having 3 different images and superimposing them on each other, a bit like the Kling AI one. But hopefully you found that really useful. If you did, I'm going to just bring up one of our reviews. If you could give us a review, tell us what you liked about the course today. And if you are interested in the training course or the audit, I'll just go and get that link, which is at the end. So we've got a few minutes for some extra questions. We are going to be doing more webinars in August, or August. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. It looks great on paper, but it's very difficult to say. And they're probably going to be Wednesday evenings around 4 or 5 o'clock. So after people have finished work, and hopefully you'll be able to join us for those. But if you want to fill in the form, that would be great. Any more questions?
We've got one on AI and social media handling. Any AI solutions that can offer support there specifically? Content ideas, hashtags, trending music, etc., according to the brand and category.
Interestingly, as part of my course, I'm building something called Go Viral with my team of 4. And the idea of that is we will be scraping every 4 hours a load of influencers in different sectors. We'll be working out what trends are happening. If not, if you're just looking for general ideas, something like ChatGPT would be fine, because it's quite creative. You might want to use, I can never pronounce the Elon Musk's one. Is it Grok, isn't it? Something like that. You might even want to look at Llama, because that's connected to Facebook. But yes, definitely. And you may find there is a tool called There's an AI for that, which has got thousands and thousands. It's not particularly nice to use. It's nowhere near as nice as our user interface that we're building. But hopefully you found that very useful. Thank you so much, guys. We now know that this is a 2.5-hour workshop, not a 3-hour workshop.
If we have an hour, we'll spend an hour and a half. If it's 2 hours, we'll spend 2.5 hours.
That is so true. Oh, there is a Q&A question. I don't know whether anybody has And also, I don't know whether, were the handouts shared? They were, weren't they? Do you know what? I don't think I added a. I think I've accidentally not. Nobody's noticed actually. But the handout is available. So if you're still here, there's 65 of you. Go and grab the handout before you go, the PDF. But you will get the video later as well. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.